Hello, everyone. It's Donna Cravata, and we are here again with another Real 50 Over 50 interview. And today we have Michele Folan, and she is a sales director in the services industry, coach, mom, wife, and oh, sorry, Facebook bombed again. Every couple of interviews, Facebook decides it doesn't want to work. So bear with me one moment and we'll start over again.
It's all right.
So if you were watching on Facebook, head over to LinkedIn or YouTube because we're live there. So anyway, Michele is a sales director in the service industry, coach, mom, wife, and self-professed lifelong learner. She has started the Asking for a Friend podcast to get the answers to the questions we all have from respected experts in their fields for women just like us. Asking for a Friend dives deep into health, wellness, career, relationships, and everything in between with honesty, wisdom, and lots of humor because we're not going into this next phase quietly.
No, we're not.
So, welcome, Michele, and I'm so
Oh,
happy to have you here. And we're just going to start right off with like what changed for you when you turned 50?
well, on a personal level, when I was almost 50, I married my now husband. So I think that kind of started to propel me into you know, being more true to myself, um, not compromising my values. And it just kind of opened things up for me, just having more confidence in my life. So, career, everything was fine at that point in my life, but I really feel like just on a personal level, I was I was in a happy place.
Hmm.
And so I think, when our personal lives are in a good mode, it does reflect well into the other aspects of our life.
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely does. And particularly when we do things that we really enjoy doing, there's not a big dividing line between work and life.
Right. Yeah. And to your point with that, with my current sales team, when we looked at 2024 goals, we looked at our business and career goals, things that we really wanted to work on for 2024. But I always have people put in a personal goal.
Yeah.
And, it could be I want to learn to speak Spanish. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to read books.
Mhm.
But it if we're good and we feel it in that we're in a good spot personally, I think it does help us in our jobs. It just makes us more fulfilled all the way around.
Yeah, it totally does. It totally does. And now that you're rounding up your 50s just the way I am, do you feel like it was, a good decade for you?
You know what? Maybe my best.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's so great. I could never go back to being 30 again because of all the experiences that I've had, people I've met. It's that, I don't know, the professional maturity that you gain and life lessons that really kind of ground you
Yeah,
once you get into your 50s.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think, even though, there were some bumps in the road in
Mhm.
this decade, I wouldn't do it over for anything.
No, I keep thinking, like, what for my own personal journey and experience, like, what are the things that make me different now than I was in my 20s or my 30s? And one of the things that keeps coming up for me is priorities. Like,
Yes.
what is a priority now versus what it would have been when I was 32 or 33 years old? And, like, the things that were, like, earth-shattering for me then just they're not a blip on the radar now.
Oh, absolutely. And now I cherish so much spending one-on-one time with my daughters. I enjoy so much just being out in nature.
Mhm.
It's sometimes just the little things that bring
Yeah.
me joy and peace that I didn't even, in my 30s, I just never took the time to really enjoy some of those things.
No, we were hustling. We were hustling.
We were
And
hustling.
yeah, and we're like that first generation that had to prove, like, we could do this. We could do it all. We were born
Yeah.
with we could bring home the bacon and fry it up in the pan on TV when we were like 6 or 7 years old.
Oh, yeah. One of my first sales jobs was a very male dominated, kind of, segment. And, you really had to, you know, pull up your bootstraps in those
Yeah.
early years and show them what you got.
Yeah, I grew up in law firms, so it was, the whole mentality there was like, we went through hell to get where we are, so everybody here is gonna go through hell. And when
Yeah.
you're on the admin side, I worked on the admin side, there were no milestones like, I'll be an associate, then I'll be a senior associate, then I'll be a partner. It was like, you'll be an admin and you will suffer the entire time you're here.
Yeah.
And I had important roles, I mean, when I left, I was managing multi-million dollar, software implementations, and it didn't matter because, we all had to go through that.
Yeah. I know.
I like this so much better.
Me too.
I remember I'm 17 years in now to my own business, and it was maybe about 2 years in when I realized that I was totally unhireable.
Well, I think now that you've had this independence of calling the shots, that first of all, you're good at it. You've proven that you can be successful without having someone leaning over your shoulder. And you're passionate about it. It's something that you love doing, and that makes it easy to get out of bed in the morning. And I think that's what we all want, right?
Yeah.
And I when I told you there were some bumps in the road in this decade, I lost my job. My job was eliminated 6 weeks before COVID shut everything down. And, when you're in your mid 50s and you're going into a full on job search, that can be a little scary. But when I sat back and just kind of took a deep breath and said, okay, this could be a gift.
Oh,
And what it allowed me to do was reassess what was important to me, what what kind of values that I wanted in a company, the people, all those things. I got to just really kind of, okay, I'm gonna be very thoughtful in this process. And in the meantime, I took golf lessons. I did a lot of things that I would never, ever, ever have had time to do before.
mhm,
And I started really working on my fitness, and I started listening to podcasts, which I had never listened to before.
mhm.
And that's kind of where I got the idea at that time that I would start a podcast, because I think I needed that creative outlet that was maybe missing. So it was kind of, I hate to use the word serendipitous, because the pandemic was sucky for everybody, but it was good for me just to have some time finally.
Yeah, and that brings me to the next question of how you found your way to podcasting. So did you start the podcast during COVID, or was it just like an idea that you were pondering?
It's just an idea I was pondering, but I did start picking the brains of other women, some who had podcasts, some who were just business leaders or an expert in their field, just to ask them questions about how they thought I should approach this. Then I got a job with a wonderful company at the end of 2021. No, 2020, the end of 2020. And so I decided to put that idea on the back burner because I really felt like, all right, I, really want to put in 110%
Mhm.
into this role. And then as I got, more comfortable in my role, and I found that, you know what, I've got more free time right now. I'm an empty nester. I think I could do this podcast thing without it interrupting my career. And so I started telling people, hey, I'm going to do a podcast. And I think when you throw it out there, then that holds you accountable
Well, it holds
to
you
doing it.
accountable, but then you start to attract the things that you need to make it happen, right? It
Yes.
starts to kinda, like, gravitate around you, the people you need to meet and the resources and the tools and the ideas and the guests. It all starts to kind of, like, swirl.
It really did. And, you know, I'm not tech savvy.
Mm,
I had no idea what I was doing, right? But you figure it out, you stumble
mhm.
through. And what's even makes this funnier is that I have coached other people now on how to start a podcast.
Because anything is possible if you believe it.
I know. I was like, really? You want me to help you? I'd love to help you. Right. So, we're having coffee on a Saturday morning and I'm walking through all my resources, and
Yeah,
it's nice to be able to give back and help other people. And a woman that I used to work with, her name's Tracy, she used to always say, all boats rise in high
mhm,
tides.
yeah,
And I love that saying. And I've really tried to keep that very front of mind when
mhm.
I bring guests on the show. I want to highlight other women, even if they're doing something similar to what I'm doing.
It
They have
doesn't
they may have a podcast, or they have a podcast that's health and wellness. I'm like, come on the show, because I that's one thing now. And you talk about what's different in your 50s. I really want to support other women. I
yeah.
want to be that partner for them. I want to bring them along and encourage them. And there was a woman that I saw on Instagram, and I saw she was doing some really interesting things on Instagram. I said, hey, would you ever want to just get on a quick Zoom call and chat? I was just curious what she was doing. And I'm like, whatever you're doing, you could make this bigger. You're
Mhm.
really putting out some great material. So I don't know. There's just that.
There's room for everyone.
Yeah, there really is. There's room at the table for everyone. And
Yeah.
I hope women embrace that.
Yeah. There's a Seth Godin blog post from, I believe, sometime in 2019. It's called Almost No One. And it's about how we tend to build more than we need when it comes to an online presence. And one of the lines in the blog post is the most popular podcast has 2,000 listeners. So, like, what do we really need? Like, what are we building for? What are we preparing for?
Yeah.
And the underlying message is really get to know your audience, get to know the people that you want to connect with instead of trying to build something for everyone. Build it for no one and figure out who your no one is.
Oh, I love that, Donna.
Yeah,
You always have such great pearls.
yeah, he's one of my mentors. I've been at this a long time, so like I've followed people for years, and you learn who to follow. You learn how to sniff out the BS.
Yeah,
What's real, what has sustainability, and what doesn't. You see
absolutely.
several cycles of this. And like what happens like now with AI coming out, you see all the same faces coming up with they're the expert, they're this, they're that, they're, putting out all of these big summits and doing all of this stuff. And then there's people in the background quietly making a difference, that are really doing like with AI. I mean, like one of the people that I follow and that I learned from, he's a professor at Wharton and he's teaching this at Wharton. That's who I want to learn from. He's
Yeah,
been doing this for more than 10 minutes.
right. I had a guest on my podcast this past week, and her name is Joan McDonald. She decided to start getting fit at the age of 70.
Amazing.
She's 77 now. She looks amazing. She went from 200 pounds to 130 pounds. But what she's done is now she influences other women that it's never too late
Yeah.
to get yourself moving, get yourself in shape, prioritize you, prioritize your health. And she's 77, but she's a fitness influencer
Yeah.
for women half her age.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And this is what we're all capable of doing, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, this is what gets me so excited. When I go and look at the webpage for the Real 50 Over 50, and now there are 88 women up there, 89 probably tomorrow. I just got another form in, and it lights me up because there are women on that page from 50 to 85. And every single one of us has reinvented in some way, shape, or form at least once.
Yeah, absolutely.
Might again.
Yeah. Some of us
But
have 9 lives.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's a woman on there that wrote her first book, published her first book at 72, never planned to do that, and her second book at 75.
incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Right, and you know what? It's funny because the podcast, I'm not making money off of the podcast. I'm doing this because it's something I enjoy, right? You can call it my expensive hobby.
Mhm.
But when I get a message, an email from someone that says, "Hey, because of you, I found another doctor who would listen to me. Because of you, I went to the dermatologist and found out that I had a melanoma." Those types of things. And if I can have a little bit of impact
Yeah,
on someone's health and wellness, or just get them to start prioritizing themselves, that's worth it for me.
yeah. A 1,000%, a 1,000,000%. I feel the same way. When this whole idea came to me, I was listening to, Mika Brzezinski talk about the 30 Over 50 conference in Abu Dhabi, and all of the names were either household names or people that, they really didn't need any of this. And then I learned that it was $10,000 a seat to attend. And
Yeah,
I was
whatever.
laying in bed listening to this, and I was like, "Well, what about this one? And what about this one? And what about me?" Like, "Look what I'm doing every day. Look what she's doing. Look what she's doing." And I was like, "Somebody needs to do something about this." And then it was like, "Oh, yeah, me." And that's I mean, I don't get paid for this either. I just, I think it's important, and I think, we all have stories to share, and they're real life, they're actual, they're truth. They're not polished in any way, and, and they're different.
Yeah.
They're different, but there's a common theme that, we wanna make an impact, we wanna leave a legacy. We've got things to share, we've learned things we never expected, we have things we wish somebody else told us about. All of those things are rolled into these stories, and on your podcast as well, I've listened to a bunch of episodes, and, the more that we could do this, the better, because there's a lot of us out there. A lot of people were born in the '60s,
Oh, yeah.
the
And
'50s.
and so this is what was also interesting. I had an epiphany kind of towards the end of 2023, was when I have medical experts and fitness experts on the show. And we would talk about career and relationships and
Mhm.
all kinds of things, right? But when I looked at my top 4 shows, they were all, really about midlife health and wellness. So I
And
decided to kind of shift things up for 2024. And now I'm inviting real women, kind of like taking a lead from you, Donna, but I'm
mhm,
bringing real women on who have had physical and health transformations,
mhm.
because I think I can really hold them up as an example of, hey,
Yes,
you know, this person wasn't taking care of themselves. They had a health crisis, but they got a handle on things. They are in control of their lives now. And I think those are great messages to share.
they really are. I would love to come on your podcast again and talk about AFib
Oh, yeah.
because I became, an AFib, patient advocate.
Yeah.
because they just don't tell you. They don't tell you what you need to know.
And AFib doesn't discriminate, right?
No.
It anybody anyone can get AFib. My mom had it. And it can be it can be scary too.
Very scary. It's your heart.
Yeah.
And they minimize it. Like when I had my first procedure, they advised that I schedule it on a Friday so I could Netflix for the weekend and I'd be fine by Monday. And there was a complication, and I ended up with a hematoma on my kidney, and I was out of commission for like 3 months
Mm,
and still an AFib.
yeah. Yeah.
So it was not good. And they don't tell you this. The other thing is too, and it's starting to change. There have been some changes recently, but most of the research is done for men. And
Shocking.
and here's the other shocking part: men's hearts and women's hearts are very different,
Yeah.
and I mean structurally.
Yeah.
Not
Well, that unfortunately, it's not just cardiovascular health where
it's
a
not.
lot of the studies are done on men. There's many, 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 many segments of our health industry where men get some priority there.
Yeah.
But there's so many women healthcare advocates out there right now that are banging that drum
Oh, yeah, yeah,
where, particularly sexual health. I
yeah,
think we're starting to finally turn the tide a bit there in the amount of research done on women's health issues.
yeah, I agree, and so just to keep on this conversation, how like, there's a lot of transformation that happens with the conversations that you're having on your podcast, and, how do you keep them practical? Like, because that's the one thing, if it's practical, people will do it. If it's not practical, it's a nice idea.
Right. So here's the thing. I am not training
Mhm,
for 59 years
mhm,
old. I'm training for 86.
mhm,
So I'm looking at all this knowledge I'm getting from the experts on my podcast, and I'm saying, all right, how do I integrate this into a lifestyle?
mhm,
It's not the diet of the day, it's not the fad exercise of the day. It is the foundation of how I live my life now.
yeah,
And I will tell you the difference. I feel better now. I'm in better shape now, better health now than I was 10 years ago
mhm,
because I'm listening to what these people are telling me. And Donna, I will tell you, that the calorie restrictive diets and the cardio mindset doesn't work for women our age.
no, no, we need to build muscle.
Build muscle mobility so that if we do happen to fall, like my mom did when she was almost 86, that they can get up off the floor,
Yeah,
you know,
yep,
by yourself, unassisted. The other thing is what we're eating. You mentioned protein. We need to, the building muscle. So we do need protein, but we need carbohydrate. We need
yes,
fat,
yeah,
and so the balanced plate, right? And I'm just incorporating all these things, and it wasn't overnight, and I'm not perfect.
yeah,
Um, Minimizing alcohol. I mean, these are all these things that there's enough data out there to support, making these changes, and I'm going to keep at it.
yeah, good, that's great advice. Me too, me too. AFib really put a kink in everything for me physically, and, I'm working on getting back to physically healthy again.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's your dream guest? Like,
Oh, I had to think about this, but you know who I would love to have on my show?
who?
Brooke Shields.
Okay, well, we're putting that out into the universe now, aren't we? Anybody know Brooke Shields or somebody around her?
Well, and the reason is she's had to have kind of a midlife transformation of her own. She was an icon
Yeah,
when
12.
we were growing up, right?
Yeah,
Beautiful Calvin Klein model, actress, and she went to college, she did all the stuff. And now she's kind of redoing her whole career, right? She's doing stage, she's on podcasts, she's kind of putting herself out there. It's probably a little uncomfortable. She's like, oh my God, what am I doing? Right. But I love that.
Yeah.
Who says you can't recreate yourself or get yourself back out there at 60? And she's doing it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Did you watch the, I think it's a Netflix show about her?
I did not.
Oh, very good. Very
Okay.
good. I think a new episode just dropped. It's really good. It's called Pretty Baby. It's really good. It's a
Okay.
little disturbing, but really
I'm
good.
writing that one down.
That's a great dream guest. I'm putting all the goodness out into the
All
universe that
right.
happens. All right. So now what is the number one solution that your podcast addresses? Like,
I kind of said it before, but I'll say it again. How do you want your next 30 years to look?
mhm,
30 plus years, let's
mhm,
say. Let's plan for that. And that means prioritizing your health. Prioritize you, put yourself first, prioritize self care. And it's okay. We don't need to feel guilty or badly that we are putting ourselves first because we can't pour from an empty cup.
mhm.
Some of
We
us
don't
have,
need
yeah,
we don't need permission.
right. I mean, a lot of us have either raised families, worked, you know, taken care of a spouse, whatever it is, and that's all great. And I've done that very willingly and lovingly.
Mhm.
But now I get to do some stuff for myself
Yeah.
because I
I'm
want
with
to be
you.
around for a while, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And here we have Carol saying self-care is not selfish, it's essential, and it's true. That's tattoo worthy, Carol. Keep them coming.
I know clairvoyant Carol.
Me too, she's lovely.
Yeah.
Um, so now, what do you want all women over 50 to know deep in their bones? So it's never a question, it's never something that they have to, like, think that they can't have,
Uh,
that it's just there, part of their DNA.
Value your experience because I don't care if you have been a CEO of a company or you were a stay-home mom and you raised 4 kids. All of those things bring value.
Yeah.
Never minimize your life experience because it is of value out there. And I hope other companies realize that because it's women, particularly women in midlife, I think bring so much to organizations and companies.
Yeah. And it's the things that nobody else thought about
Yeah.
and, were gaps.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that I love to do in my work is to help people remember the parts that they lost along the way, because I help people with their stories and how to turn those stories into marketing. And um, it's the first part that we do, because when you've done something for a long time, you just forget chunks of it, or you think, oh, nobody will care. That's not relevant anymore. Now I have to move on to what's next. But that's not true, because that's all of those things are what got you to where you are right now. And you can edit them and take the parts you want, but you can't forget them because it's part of who you are. And then there's a gap.
Well, you bring up something else too, which I do want to say. Don't be afraid to get coaching.
Yeah.
If you do want to get yourself back out there, don't be afraid to get a career or job coach.
Mhm.
You want to get yourself fit, you know, hire a fitness coach or a nutrition coach, a mindset coach.
Mhm.
All those coaches are out there. Um, you may not have all the answers.
Yeah.
When I had lost my job and I was back out in the pool, I did hire like a career coach just to
Mhm.
help me kind of formulate my story, much like what you do.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it was, it kind of scared me a little bit because we locked off half my resume
Yeah, and
because
then
it
but
made
they
me
could
look
see what you
old.
can't see. They could see what you can't see.
I know. I know, but that was such great advice. I
Yeah.
changed my email address because my email address made me look old.
Mhm. Oh, is it an AOL?
It was. I had it for years. It's my junk email now, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I love telling that story because people are like, "Oh my god, you had an AOL account?"
I still have mine too.
I I didn't know. So
Yeah.
that's when I got the Gmail account.
Yep.
But, you know, I used to be that person that thought I could do everything on my own. I didn't need help. I wasn't a good collaborator. I probably didn't network, but I will tell you, when I got into my 50s, that became very important to me to network
Mhm.
with people and to ask for help.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Well, the way that I like to think about it is nobody else really has the answers for you. You have those answers, but other people that know more about certain things could see things you can't see,
yeah,
and they could also see things about you that you can't see because they're looking with a trained eye.
yeah.
And when you can combine the forces of somebody that can guide you because they have more experience than you, and you really owning everything that you have, and somebody helping you pull those pieces together, it's quite a good combination.
Hmm.
That's what
Absolutely.
cuts through, that's where transformation happens, not by trying to seek someone that has the answers for you.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, and I think that's something, again, that comes with wisdom because when we're in our 30s or even 40s, who's got time to stop and think about this stuff? You're looking for the quick fix, you're looking for what's next,
Yeah.
but you can't find what's next without looking back at what you've done.
Yeah, and I think too, I wanted to make some smart decisions for my life
Yeah,
in my 50s, and like I said before, be more intentional
yeah.
about my next steps. And I think I'm finally figuring it out.
Intentional is a really good word to live by.
Yeah.
Alright, so we are up with time, but can you leave everyone with a wisdom bomb? Like, what do you want people to know?
Hmm. Well, I kind of said it before, but don't don't be afraid to design your future. You're in control. You have all the knowledge, all the ability to move ahead, make these next 30 plus years your best years, because I believe that mine are just ahead.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. And everybody, please go and listen to Michelle's podcast, Asking for a Friend. She's got great information on there, great guests, and connect with her. And will you come back and let us know when Brooke Shields is a guest?
Wouldn't that be hilarious if I quite Donna, guess who reached out? Oh my God.
I'm
Look
gonna
at
go find.
karma.
I'm gonna go find her publicist for you. I have ways.
Okay. That's
Well,
hilarious.
thank you everyone for joining us today, and we will be back next Wednesday with another interview and next month with another wisdom panel. But all of the replays are available on the Real 50 Over 50 website. And everybody, again, please go and check out Michelle's podcast, listen to it, subscribe, leave a review. Those things really, really matter. And connect with Michelle on all the socials and say hi. And That's it. Well,
Thanks,
we're
Donna.
waiting for Brooke now. Oh, and if you're listening on the replay, leave comments, tag us. We will come back and we will respond. And thanks for joining us today. Everybody have a great Wednesday.
Thanks, Donna.